Alrighty, hi guys, good Friday night. I'm digital anchor Brandi Smith. I first want to apologize for my voice. It sounds a lot worse than it feels. I got that bug that's going around. Stripped my voice for a couple of days, but it's back in action. We're gonna call it back in action tonight. I just really wanted the opportunity to talk to you about the series that I've been working on for weeks, and then of course, as we get ready to roll it out, my voice disappears. So yesterday we launched Living in the Lone Star, and it's a series about looking at trending kind of non-traditional homes. So we have so far profiled 4 different well, actually officially only 3 because tonight is the 4th. 4 different types of non-traditional homes. Started with tiny homes, shipping container homes, 3D printed homes, and then tonight we're going to show you what it's like living in a barndominium. Along with all the pieces that we've run on air on KHOU.com, we also have multiple other stories on each theme living at KHOU.com and on our YouTube page. So I want to show you how to get to those. So if you go to KHOU.com/living, you're going to find this page, Living in the Lone Star. This includes in-depth articles that incorporate all of the videos that I put together, and then the videos. But this is really where you'll find the articles. And if reading is your thing, this is the place to turn. If you just want to binge and watch, which is kind of my style, pop over to our YouTube channel. So right here, under, you see Mia there in that box. Underneath there's a playlist that says Living in the Lone Star. If you click on that, you can see that full list. We've got 20 videos in all. 6 on tiny homes, 5 on shipping containers, 4 on 3D printed homes, and 5 on barndominiums. So I'm gonna go through and play some of those videos, some of the stories, kind of the introductory stories that I put together. Again, if you're just joining me and you're hearing my voice and you're like, oh my gosh, please bear with me. I'm really excited about these stories. And I'm so frustrated that my voice has just decided to peace out in the moment I really, really want to talk to you guys. But we're going to roll with it until the voice gives out. I'm going to try to answer some of your questions. So as I'm playing through these stories, hit me with questions. I know you can on Facebook, YouTube. You'll be able to ask them after the live stream is complete. So we're going to dive right in. For the first series, I went up to Willis to visit a tiny home community called Majestic Hills. Here we go. The big trend in new homes is going small. And by small, I mean tiny.
400 square feet or less is the definition of tiny home.
So all of the houses in Majestic Hills tiny home community are 399 square feet or less. And if your first reaction is, what can you possibly fit in 399 square feet like mine was?
People are pleasantly surprised what they find inside a tiny home.
No many furniture or folding futons in these homes.
You can actually have a real dining table, a real outdoor living space. Some of them hold a king-size bed.
Georgette and Corey Friels got the idea for Majestic Hills after seeing more people choosing to downsize into RVs.
We kind of just merged them all together and started on tiny homes, which sort of is a traditional home and an RV.
With the tiny home living, this is a much better option. This is a much more stable home to live in. It's an asset that will appreciate in value.
On the topic of value,
The base homes are $55,000 to $75,000.
To be able to have a home and be able to get in that price is amazing.
the cost is one reason to downsize, but the most common motivation is just simplifying life.
You're going to get control of your stuff in life.
Mark Agnew is the property sales specialist at Majestic Hills, and he lives here too.
You gain back quality time in your life because you don't spend a lot of time cleaning your home because it's 400 square feet.
At Majestic Hills, that means you can spend time in the heated pool, working out at the gym, playing yard games, out at the 1-acre dog park, or tending to the community garden.
Everyone talks about how peaceful it is here.
Already more than half of the lots here at Majestic Hills are leased, so if you want in, you gotta get in fast. We have more information on KHOU.com. Reporting in Willis, Brandi Smith, KHOU 11 News. All right, I probably should have cut that before my face popped up on there. But yeah, so out of the 83 lots, more than half of them are already accounted for up there. What's interesting is Corey and Georgette actually own Majestic Hills RV Park. And what they saw was a lot of folks were downsizing from their big homes in the suburbs, in the city, wherever. And they were deciding to live in RVs instead. And so they just saw an opportunity there, started Majestic Hills. If you want to learn more about tiny homes, I have more videos on our YouTube channel and again on KHOU.com. You can also stream these on our Roku and Fire apps on your smart TV, which is a really easy way to just kick back on the couch and watch them. So we have that piece you just watched, what it's like living in a tiny home, because you heard from Mark Agnew there. He's the property sales specialist, but he also lives in a tiny home on site. He kind of talks about what it's like living in less than 400 square feet. We talk about the cost. There's really a range there. You can go bare bones, stuff you want to do yourself, or you can go with all the bells and whistles. So like anything, like any house, there's that range there. I did a little piece on Majestic Hills itself, how Corey and Georgette got the idea for it and rolled it out. And then there are also 2 videos that are just walkthrough tours of 2 of the models. One that has a focus on outdoor living and one that has kind of more of a Western feel. And they're both pretty cool. I was gonna see, I don't know if my Facebook, oh, there it is. Now it's working. Just a moment. Okay, we're good. I run this whole machine myself, and I just wanted to make sure that everything was going okay, because when that story was airing, I couldn't see y'all on our KHOU Facebook page, so I wanted to pop on and see if you had any questions. Opening up comments now. Oh, Annie says, I live in a tiny home. Danny says, hope you feel better soon. That's the thing that is driving me crazy. I feel fine. I just sound awful. And I promise, this is gonna be my line of the night. It sounds a lot worse than it actually is. I have energy, like no runny nose, no other symptoms, no fever, no nothing, just this throat thing that's driving me nuts. Mike says, I've lived in my 200 square foot tiny house in Arizona going on 5 years already. Mike, I'd love to hear what prompted that move for you, what the impetus was, because a lot of folks have said they just want to get rid of the clutter in their life. Admittedly, they're really cool when you walk through. But especially being on TV, like my closet, just like on-air TV dresses, we could not narrow it down to fit in a tiny home. I'd have to have like a second tiny home for just my clothes. Daff says, went to an RV as well. Carrie asked, do they let you try before you commit? That is such an interesting question. So they don't do rentals at Majestic Hills at this time, but it might be worth doing an Airbnb of a tiny home. You can find them all over the city, or a VRBO, whatever, just to see if it's something that you could live in. I say that because this summer, my boyfriend and I took all the kids and we stayed at a shipping container hotel called Flophouse in Round Rock, and Round Top, Round Top. And it was such a neat experience because it was very clearly a shipping container. It was refurbished using reused materials, reclaimed materials. And we really talked about the options there after that experience. So that might be something you want to try. Danny says, I wish there was a way that they're wheelchair friendly. I can see the limitations in a tiny home, but we're going to talk about shipping container homes now. I'm going to switch on over. With one last note from Mike, who lives in a tiny home. He says he wanted to downsize and not have a huge mortgage. So the tiny homes you heard in that story at Majestic Hills range from $45,000 to $75,000. They can get fancier if you really want to, and they can be more bare bones if you're willing to put in the work. And that's the case with just about every example I'm going to show you here tonight. So now let's move on to shipping container homes. This has been a fascination of mine. There's actually a shipping container home in my neighborhood, and I've been annoying my boyfriend with questions about it because there are a lot of questions about it. It's relatively new. What's the resale value, all of that. So I went out to Bob's Containers in Austin. They also have a yard in Houston, but I went to their Austin yard where they're doing
They're the typical sounds of home construction.
Except our medium is the metal box.
Shipping containers, specifically. Some are 20 feet long, others are 40. And on a given day, the crew at Bob's Containers is working on up to 24 different projects at this site outside Austin.
It all starts with cutting the steel. Putting in your window frames, getting all that welded. We'll take all the rust, prep it.
Owner Robert Balderas makes the process sound easy.
Well, come on in.
But the transformation made from cold metal box to a warm, inviting space is stunning.
It's a great feeling to do this conversion, right? Like you said, it was a cold metal box and we turned it into someone's dream home. That's so gratifying.
It happens quickly, too. About 2 weeks for the smaller containers, a month for the large ones.
So compared to building a home, which can be 6 months to a year, we have the availability to drop these ready to live in, plug and play a lot faster.
You're probably wondering how much it's going to cost to get you in one of these things. Well, if you want to go bare bones and just have Bob's crew cut out the metal, you're looking at the low 20,000s. But if you're looking for more of a finished product like these guys, they're going to start in the upper 20s.
It's a good alternative for a lot of people, yeah.
Especially people looking for a tiny home or who want to drop a rentable unit in their backyard.
It's becoming a very viable option.
It's a sturdy option, too. Containers are built to weather all kinds of storms and can withstand winds up to 150 miles an hour.
Hey, this is very safe, it's very secure.
Containers have business uses, too. The team at Bob's can turn a box into an office, a barbershop, a bathroom.
It's the containerization methodology. It's like whatever you need, you can put it in a container. You have that mobility aspect, so pick it up and move it.
There is no containing the possibilities.
Tons of things you can do with it.
Cut it out there before you had to hear me tag out. But yes, such a unique opportunity to go out there and see this process of a big metal box being turned into a home. Lots of different ways you can use them too. So in the different videos that we have on the playlist, the Living in the Lone Star playlist, how much does one of these cost? What is that transformation like? I go into it a little bit more. And all the incredible creations that shipping containers are being used in. It's not just homes, it's apartments, it's schools, it's entire shopping centers. They really are these like giant Legos that you can use as building blocks. Some things you do need to keep in mind. You can't just necessarily drop it anywhere. You are going to have to check with permitting. Same thing with tiny homes. So even if you have your own property, you got to make sure that everything is in the clear. Shipping containers are unique in that if they stay on wheels, depending on who your financing is through, it can be considered an RV. So there's a lot of information out there if you really want to dig into shipping container homes, whether you're looking for a tiny home or like he said, a backyard Airbnb or rental unit that someone can just plop in the backyard and use to start making income. You can also do different configurations. The shipping container home that's in my neighborhood is 6 containers. 4 of them are the first 2 floors, so it's just a square, and then the top is this beautiful rooftop patio. It is gorgeous, and so seeing that, I'm like, But in talking to Bob, he did say the wider you make it, the more expensive it gets per square foot. So if you're just looking at like a 40-foot unit, 1 container, it generally can be cheaper than traditional construction. But if you really start getting creative with it, it's going to bring the cost up. Popping on here. Nick's on here. Nick saved my life for our next series that we're talking about, which is 3D printed homes. So I'll dig into that in just a moment. But hey, Nick. Yeah, Mike bought his as an empty shell. Now he lives in a tiny home. Mike, is your tiny home a shipping container by chance, or is it just a tiny home? The way to describe this is a shipping container can be a tiny home, but not all tiny homes are shipping containers, right? But they can be, like shipping containers, like I said, can be used for just about anything. So I'm curious because Mike said he bought his as an empty shell with tiny homes, with shipping containers. You can start raw. So like Home Depot does sell, it's really a small home because it's 800 square feet, but there are now kits that you can buy to build a tiny home. And think about it, that's definitely going to be less construction than building a full like 2-story, 3-bedroom home, right? And you can do the same thing with storage container or shipping container homes. The only difference is there's a little bit more skill tasks involved, like the welding, cutting of the metal, that kind of stuff. So that's why I mentioned that Bob's actually does do a DIY program. If you go to bobscontainers.com, it has the model units that it designs and takes care of from start to finish, or you can buy just a raw container where they've cut out the doors. Let me see. They cut out the doors and windows, put the reinforcements in. I believe they wire it so that you get to do all the finishing. Oh, Mike says it's a 200 square foot double lofted barn building by Graceland Portable Buildings. And this is another thing I want to mention. There are lots of options for all of these kinds of homes. Majestic Hills is certainly not the only place to get a tiny home. Bob's is not the only place to get shipping containers. Just when I was doing research and reaching out to folks, they were the folks who got back to me and were like, yeah, come on out. So that's why we ended up profiling them. But lots of options, especially shipping containers here in the Houston area. And I thought I saw someone comment that they make tiny homes in Houston. Elaine Gracia did. In-box buildings. So lots and lots of options. You just have to make sure you have a permitted and okayed place to put them. So Nick is here. Nick helped me with my next story, which is 3D printed buildings. Now I just think this is so cool because it's a change from anything we've been talking about, right? Like a tiny home is still traditional construction for the most part, just tinier. Shipping container homes are using the same ideas, but metal. 3D printing is just a whole new way of doing things. And the idea came from CEO, I want to make sure I got his name right. I'm so sorry. Jason Ballard. CEO Jason Ballard grew up on the Texas Gulf Coast. His family lost their home in a hurricane. He says he lived in a FEMA trailer. He's done all that, and it was about that time he started thinking, like, we're not doing this right. Why do we just go through the cycle over and over again? And so over time, after college, working in well, I don't want to give the whole story away. Let's just watch the story and see if you can spot where Nick helped me out a little bit.
At first glance, this cluster of East Austin homes blends in with the neighborhood around it. But these homes are built to stand out, stand up, and stand firm.
We print the entire wall system.
Print, yes, as in 3D, using concrete and a massive 11-foot robot.
What we're replacing with our automation is framing, interior finishing surface, exterior finishing surface. You don't necessarily even need to paint it. We do plumbing, electrical, or rough-ins are delivered with the wall system.
Jason Ballard is the CEO of Icon, the company that famously constructed the U.S.'s first permitted 3D printed home in Austin back in 2018. That was the fulfillment of an idea Ballard had been working on since he was a kid.
I mean, I grew up on the Texas Gulf Coast. My childhood home is gone. My family has spent Christmas in a FEMA trailer. We kept rebuilding with stick frame houses. And then the hurricanes and tropical storms would come again. And it was sort of like the doom loop.
So over the years, as he worked for nonprofits and focused on sustainable housing, he tried to identify a way to stop that loop.
Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come, and it's very clear that the world is hungry for a better way to deliver housing.
Ballard passionately believes 3D printing is that way.
If I could think of a better way, that's what we would be doing.
Just like a standard 3D printer that so many of us are familiar with, you have to put together a printer-friendly blueprint. After that, the robot does the rest.
Yeah, the future is faster than you think.
Icon's robots can run 24 hours a day, eliminating labor issues and cut down on construction waste, since the concrete can be measured down to the drop. On top of that, Ballard says 3D printing allows for projects to be scalable and affordable.
It's a higher performing house, so often to get something faster and cheaper, you have to reduce its quality. In this case, you're actually getting an improved quality, improved comfort, improved energy efficiency.
The build in 2018 was a proof of concept. These homes, the East 17th Street residences, went on the market in August and are already sold. But now comes Icon's largest project yet, a partnership with Lennar to build 100 3D printed homes. The development is set to break ground early next year.
It's just a very exciting, compelling, and powerful new way forward.
Isn't that just so cool? And that 3D printer that I did, what we call a stand-up, that I was standing in front of, that's Nick's 3D printer, so I appreciate it. I wanted to give some scope and scale, because like my dad has a 3D printer, and I think most of us have seen one in action, but not that size. So the Vulcan robot that they have at Icon is, I think, 11 feet 3 inches, definitely more than 11 feet tall. And you saw what it can do. Another just crazy element to this story. You got to watch more of the videos on our playlist, on our Living in the Lone Star playlist, because Icon is also involved with NASA, working on some projects there, working with the military. There's a lot that Icon is doing here in Texas and beyond. But it's also built 2 nonprofit communities for families experiencing homelessness. One of those is in Austin. One of those is in Mexico. And it's just a really fast way to get those homes up. And they're, like you heard, energy efficient and kind of almost weather resistant, like a concrete building would be. I saw Jamie asked if this is going to be posted so we can watch it again. Once the live is over, it will live on here on whatever you're watching on Facebook, but it'll live on YouTube, Facebook, whatever. And then all of the videos that I'm playing for you now are on that playlist. So if you go to our YouTube channel, the KHOU 11 YouTube channel, just look for Living in the Lone Star. You can see those 20 videos, or khou.com/living is where you can read the articles as well. Some conversation about how much shipping containers run. Yeah, so I did a piece, 20 footers are going for about 35, 40 footers are going for about 5 in the Houston area. But Mike says they're going for as little as 3,000. And then Joe said, Joe, where are you from? He might be from here in Houston. He says 20 footers here in auctions are going for about 1,800. You do need to be careful about where or what was carried. If it is a used container, new containers are going to cost you a little bit more. And I break that all down in one of the other videos on our playlist. If you are just joining us and you're wondering what is wrong with her, why does she sound like that? I got a bug this week. Strip me of my voice. I otherwise feel fine, which is the most frustrating part of all of this. But I just really appreciate anyone who's hanging through the voice, because I know it's a struggle. It doesn't exactly sound nice. So tonight at 10, I'm going to take you up to Cleveland to meet Stacy Lynn and her husband Oliver Bell. They live in a barndominium called the Creek House. If you've heard of barndominiums, they have actually been around for a while. They've been around for a couple of decades, but and famously, Joanna Gaines created a barn dough in Waco when she remodeled a barn for her show. In those cases, they were often barns converted into living spaces, or barns or shops built with living spaces in them. These are built as residences, so built with living first in mind. And while they might look somewhat industrial, it's very different. Here, I'm not going to show you the story that's airing tonight at 10. If you want to pop over to our YouTube channel, you can watch it there. But I wanted to introduce you to Stacy Lynn because I found her on TikTok. If you search the hashtag Barndominium on TikTok, it is blowing up over there. Instagram too. It is all over. And it just so happened that she was just up the road in Cleveland, so I popped up to see her.
A barndominium is a non-traditional home. And Stacy Lynn's path to becoming a barndominium designer is just as non-traditional.
How did we get started, Oliver?
You could go all the way back to 28 years ago when this pair got married, but the short version of the story begins 2 years ago.
We wanted to build a barndominium, and Stacy was looking for a contractor, and so she had this idea. She drew it up. She couldn't find someone to do it, so not only did she become the designer, I suggested she build it.
Stacy Lynn became the general contractor on the project, one that had high interest in Cleveland where it was going up.
As we were building it, lots of people started stopping by and said, wow, this is a beautiful design. So I think we started to feel better that we were on the right part of our journey here, that it wasn't just us that had fallen in love with the design, but that others were interested in it as well.
Those visitors encouraged her to share her Barndominium's progress on social media.
And I did, and again, I'm not dancing, I'm not singing, I'm not twirling. I'm talking about metal buildings, and we are fast approaching 400,000 followers on TikTok, and we're just over a year old on that platform.
Almost 80,000 and counting follow her on Instagram.
I'm known as the Barndominium lady because a lot of my friends call me that because I love Barndominiums. I'm always talking about it. A lot of the folks on social media had said, hey, there's the Barndominium lady, so the name just stuck.
As the Barndominium lady's following grew, so did the number of inquiries about whether she would design more. In June 2020, Stacy Lynn launched Our Barndominium Life.
We've done barndominiums as small as 1,500 square feet. We're in the process of putting on the finishing touches on a 21,000 square foot barndominium. So we've got lots of variations in between.
Stacy Lynn offers stock design options, but also loves working on custom projects.
We've probably got design projects in 40 out of the 50 states.
And remember, Stacy Lynn is just getting started.
There's not a lot of women in steel. It's really been dominated by men for a long time, but I think we're starting to creep in there. Look out, fellas.
They are just the cutest couple. And going around the Creek house, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I'd seen the videos on social media about what barndominiums looked like, but they do a lot of combo rooms. And I break that down in, I think the video is called the Wow Factor, all the different features that you can put into a barndominium. So combo rooms, the really cool one, well, there are a couple that they have at the Creek house, is a giant living room kitchen with a 20-foot kitchen island. And then they have a garage door that looks like windows. You wouldn't even think it was a garage door until they hit the button. It opens up to a giant, spacious outdoor kitchen and patio. The other combo room they have is a game media bunk room that is just so neat. Like, I could have done a whole video just on that room. So you walk up, and it's this expansive, it's like half the second floor, right? It has what looks like couches all around the ends. Those are bunks. Those are queen-size bunks, 2 of them foot to foot. So you can sleep 8 people up there. There's a table for playing games, entertainment center, lots of seating, and then a breakfast kitchen. So if you're having friends, family, I just thought about like holidays, just in that part of the house, how amazing it would be. Oh, Sharon says, I've lived in a barndominium for 11 years. Love it. So some of the benefits are it is a steel frame building, so it does go up a little faster than traditional construction. I would not say it is necessarily cheaper than regular traditional construction. If you want to put all the bells and whistles in it, like Stacy Lynn has in hers, but she subscribes to this idea of save and splurge. Understanding where you can save money and where you should spend it. Like she has a clawfoot tub in her bathroom that is beautiful, and she says, I knew I wanted that. I was going to spend money on it, but she made curtains out of flour sacks, potato sacks. Just really nifty stuff like that. Also, they did almost all the woodwork in the house themselves. Stacy Lynn and Oliver did, including the roofing or the ceiling, I should say, in the game room, bunk room. Pretty incredible. So she says a lot of people like to do that because, and for any of these projects, I think that could apply, because they like the pride of being able to say, look what we did. Look at that accent wall that we built. Look at the stairs that we put together. Although, to be honest, I would be a little hesitant to go upstairs that I personally built. That's why I'd want to pay for that. But it does give you the opportunity to have that personal involvement. Emery says they used to be pretty affordable until demand popularity for them increased due to skyrocketing home prices. Yeah, because steel, well, in comparison to lumber, I guess right now both are kind of fluctuating, but it was considered a more affordable option, especially if you're okay with concrete floors. That takes away a lot of the cost. Oh, Mike says, Goodwill, thrift shops, and Facebook Marketplace have been lifesavers for building my tiny house. I think that needs to be emphasized more. A lot of folks are downsizing and kind of getting rid of the clutter. I mean, there was that whole Marie Kondo fascination a couple years back where we just really tried to get rid of all the stuff that cluttered our life. And, that could be the thing that really adds to someone else's, something that they were looking for. So normally I go for clothes, but Goodwill is one of my favorite places, and other thrift stores, because you can find some incredible stuff that is just someone else is done with. It's not, that time has passed for that person, but now it's time for it to shine in my life. Oh, I wanted to say, Mike, thank you for sharing this in the tiny house groups. Janine says she thinks a friend of mine just purchased one of those tiny homes. So the home or the community is Majestic Hills, I think is what you were talking about. And it's Georgette and Corey are the couple who own it. And then Mark is the property sales specialist there. Do y'all have any more questions? I can't believe that my voice is held up this long. Thank you again for sticking with me, bearing with me through this. I was supposed to do this yesterday, and I just didn't. If you could imagine, it sounded much worse than this. It was just squeaking. The past couple of mornings when I've woken up, I couldn't even make noise. So this morning, when I could, it was a good sign. Nick, thank you. Thank you so much for your help, seriously. And the 3D printer is featured in Nick's 3D printer is featured in a couple of the other bits I did on 3D printing, because the 17th Street residences have already been sold. Their private property. We didn't want to go bother the homeowners. And since Icon's not working on anything right now until it breaks ground on the Lennar project next year, there wasn't a way to get really cool video. And so I thought that 3D printer would kind of help. I don't know. Last call for questions before I wrap it all up. Okay, well, I'll go over how you can check these all out again. You can go to khou.com/living. This has the articles and individual videos. So links to the businesses I talked to, all of that is in there. But if you just want to watch and binge, go to our KHOU 11 YouTube channel. If you look at the playlist right under Mia, there in the video box, it says Living in the Lone Star. You can do play all. You're going to get this full list. There are 20 videos, again, 6 for tiny homes, including 2 tours. Shipping container homes, there are 5. There are 4 for 3D printed homes and 5 for Barndominiums. Now the 2 that air today, so Barndominiums and 3D printed homes, I also have extended interviews with Jason Ballard, the CEO of Icon, and Stacy Lynn, owner of Our Barndominium Life. I really encourage you to watch the interview with Stacy Lynn, only because she talks about some of the really cool projects that we just didn't have the visuals for yet because they're still working on them with clients. Like an entertainment barndo that has like a built-in trampoline floor and a rock wall and a gym that rivals commercial gyms out there. I mean, just all the really, really cool projects that she's working on, again, in 40 out of the 50 states. So pretty nifty. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and bearing with me. I really always appreciate our conversations. So if there's a type of non-traditional home you think I should profile going forward, reach out. So you can message me. I'm Brandi Smith, KHOU on Facebook. I need to double check what my Twitter handle is. I'm Brandi, KHOU on Twitter. I am Brandi Smith on Instagram. I'm Brandi KHOU on TikTok. Like wherever you want to message me, or my email is b as in Brandi Smith at khou.com. Let me know if there's something you have a question about, and maybe it's something I can dig into, or any other ideas you have for living in the Lone Star, because this is a series I'm really excited about, and I think there are a lot of opportunities here in Texas. In the meantime, just know that you can always stream these, again, on Roku and Fire TV on our KHOU app, the KHOU 11 channel on YouTube, or on Facebook. Have a great night.